Hello and welcome to the Inquisitive Knitting Podcast. My name is Marie and this is episode 7 and the first episode in English. I want to welcome new viewers and two old ones that will hopefully continue follow my little world of knitting. This podcast is mainly about knitting and yarn and what inspires me to craft. I come to you from the east coast of northern Sweden, where I live with my partner and 2 children. As a real job, I work as a cardiology specialist nurse in a nearby university hospital. And my spare time is spent in the forests or outdoors. I love running, going to the gym, and our entire family practice the sports orienteering during summers. So I spend a lot of time outdoors. I hope you will enjoy this podcast and bear with me on the English speaking part. I hope you will understand what I say. Well, first of all, let's talk about what I'm wearing. It's the Florencia tee by Eve Knit Toronto that was published in the summer edition of Leeni magazine. And I have knitted mine in a Swedish yarn brand called Jarnvik, and the yarn is called Jarnvik Blenda. It's a wool yarn, a mix between Swedish wool, Gotland wool and merino, I think, and it's knitted in the color West Coast Blue. And it's super soft and I love it and have used it a lot this summer. Well, talking about this summer, it has been a long summer with 4 weeks of vacation, a lot of knitting, some traveling. I have met a lot of knitting friends from all over Sweden, and also I have been resting a lot. It's in the beginning of the summer where I had my vacation, it was really hot, so I didn't do much else than sit in the shadow and knit. So I have a lot of finished objects, but I can't show you everyone because then I need to talk for hours, I think. So I will share a couple of them with you. So here is a little pile of finished objects. Let's start with the pine sweater. This is a pattern by Ann-Sophie Welling, and I knitted mine in Isager Twinny. And the contrast color is knitted in a Swedish yarn brand called Alchemy, and the yarn is called Jämtland, and it's an undyed white yarn. This feels a little tweedy in the effect. This is a sweater I have been using a lot this summer because it's quite airy and light, and I'm super happy with the result. And then I knitted several patterns from Tete Lutzak, who is a Ukrainian designer, but she lives in Haarlem, Holland or Netherlands. I love her patterns, and the first one I finished was this, the javelin pullover. It has really nice structure on the yoke and on the hem on the arms. It was a really fun and fast knit. Now when it's colder outside, I have been using this from and back to work. I think it's really beautiful and I love it too. I knitted mine in a yarn called Delana Rustica, and the color is called 11D. It's sort of blue-grayish tone. It looks a bit gray in the camera, but it's more blue. I don't know if this is more accurate. Well, more from Tatty Loutsi designs. This pullover is called Nivalis, and it's knitted in a really fun technique. In Sweden we call it rositude, eller rositude. I can easily explain it by saying that instead of, when you're doing the color work, instead of hiding the floats, you put them on the right side, so you get the pattern from the floats instead of knitted stitches. It was a quite time-consuming technique, and you have to be careful not to tighten the yarn too much, because then when you block it you get a bubbly effect. But I think I managed to get mine quite okay. This is knitted in a yarn from Wool met Verve. I ordered it from the Netherlands because I couldn't get hold of it in Sweden. It's a wool linen blend yarn called Woolen Heather, and this color is called Night Sky. It's also a bit blue grayish. You will notice that that's my favorite colors. And the contrasts, the floats, is knitted in a gray Gotland yarn from a local farm, a sheep farm, called Svansele Småbruk. So it's quite precious to me. This will be another favorite during this winter, I think. It's quite light and airy too, and I love that with some sweaters, because when you have a blouse or a shirt underneath, you get, or I get way too warm if I have a thick sweater. Well, then on to the shawl part. I have not knitted that many shawls in my life, but as soon as I found this first one I'm going to show you, I fell in love. It's from the book Urban Knits by Leeni Holmela, and the shawl is called Loutsi. I'm not good at Finnish at all, but something like Loutsi. And it's a shawl with a zigzag pattern, created with moss stitch and twisted rib. It's quite big and I think I knitted on this for maybe half a year. I love the finished result, and I will probably use it a lot during the winter because I always get really cold between in the wingspan behind the back of my neck and down in the middle of the back. So I think I will use it a lot. It's knitted in Serena Sport. That's dyed by a local northern indie dyer called Rät och Avig, and the color is called Blue Jeans, and I paired it with a soft lilac mohair from Sandnes. So the color looks gray blue, light gray blue, and the halo is sort of lilac-y. It's a bit hard to see on the screen, I think. I also knitted a small scarf that's designed by also Swedish designer called Anna Sjösvärd. It's called Angerboda shawl, Angerboda shawl, and this one I knitted in worsted or 3-ply yarn maybe, that I dyed with some I don't know, some weed from the nature. It's dyed with I don't know, I don't remember, but I dyed the yarn anyway last summer, and I paired it with the mohair that is semi-colored. So the main yarn is rust color, and the mohair is blue and lilac-y and turquoise and a bit yellow and orange in. So it's the halo looks I don't know how to explain it, but it gives the shawl a really interesting look. It's super simple with you see it's holes in the middle and during the edges, and it took me maybe 2 days to knit. It's on big needles and really fun. A perfect shawl to have under the jacket during the winter. So I recommend it. I think you can find the pattern in English as well. Then the last finished object I'm going to show you is something I actually finished last night. It's a pair of socks that I have been lucky to test knit for one of my favorite designer. She's called Katarina Lindhagen and has a brand called Hagenhuset. She has lovely patterns, simple but really well written, and the details is always something special. She often have genius resolutions to things like the thumb on a mitten, or the heel on a sock, or the trimmed edge on a sweater, or I really love her patterns, so I recommend them. And I think all of them is in English. She writes the patterns in English first and then translates them to Swedish, so first English then Swedish. That's a different way of doing it if you live in Sweden. Well, to the sock or the test knit. It is a sock called Askim socks. They are knitted from the top down and has a 3x1 ribbing throughout the sock that make them fit really good. It's a basic sock with afterthought heel. I knitted socks like this before, but her patterns make them fit better than others, I think. And as I said before, her way of solving problems and making the knitted object fit perfectly is she's a genius. I just you need to check her patterns out. I knitted these in Sandnes Sisu in a brownish color. I don't know. I can write the color number in the description box for you. Well, then I have some work in progress, or I usually try to have not more than 3 projects ongoing, because more than 3 makes me a bit stressed. But now I am in well, I started a couple of summer projects, like short sleeved sweaters that I haven't finished, and now I felt a bit fall inspired, you can say. It's getting colder outside. This week it has been raining like crazy. It's colder at evenings, darker, the wind blows. You only want to be inside and snuggle in a nice not a t-shirt, nice sweater, and drinking tea or coffee and look at TV and knit. So I started on a couple of projects that's more fall-like or woolly, or what you want to call them. The first one is the Alpenglow sweater, as so many of you also knit. It's by Andrea Maury, and I knit mine in these colors. The rust color is a silk blend from a Swedish indie dyer called Mendusana, and the pink mohair is from Sandnes, and then the base color is from also a Swedish brand called Järbo, and it's the Lama silk base. As you by now have realized, I'm really into blue and grays, so again it's a blue grayish color. And the contrast color, the multicolored color that's in the original, is a spinsicle yarn that is almost impossible to get hold of in Sweden, and if you find it in Europe it costs a fortune. So instead I have bought a yarn from also a local indie dyer called Limo Designed. She has a black edition sock yarn, so I picked one of those, and it looks like this. I really love it, and it's a bit hard to see on the screen, but the contrast isn't really that high, but I think the finished effect will be really nice. the llama yarn is super soft, so this will also be a thinner wool sweater that I can use over a blouse or a shirt or with a t-shirt underneath. I split for the body maybe a couple of days ago, but I haven't knitted that much on it since then. I also last night casted on sorry about the sound, another project designed by Loutsi. It's a hat called Grass Whispers. Grass Whispers beanie. It's a hat with a structure pattern on it, and I knit that in also yarn from Yarrow, but this one is called Llama Soft. It's a little bit thicker than the other yarn. It feels like a blow yarn, and the color is, I don't know, a bit rust. I'm not sure about me and this color, but I might give it away when it's finished. But I love knitting with the yarn. It's super soft again, and I think it will be a nice result. The yarn was gifted to me from an online store called Edna. That's a Swedish yarn store. I also have started on a new shawl wrap. That's something I'm designing myself. I might call for test knitters for that one during November, I think, maybe. I haven't finished, so I can ask if someone wants to knit it, help me knit it. The pattern is pretty much finished, but I can't show it to you yet because I haven't done that much. Well, do I have any more plans for this fall? Well, I think I have, as we say in Swedish, snowed in or snöat in on shawls. I don't know why. I just think it's a good idea for me because I always feel cold in my back. So I don't know why I never used them before, because for me now it seems like a really, really good thing. So I have two shawls that I have bought yarn for. One is a shawl by Camilla Wad that I don't remember the name of, but I have the yarn so I can show you. This is the same yarn base as I used for the sweater I'm wearing, the Yarn Wick Blenda base, and this yarn is so incredibly soft. I love it. I could probably knit everything in it if I want to, but you know, it's fun to buy yarn. I have picked these colors. This one is the same as the sweater. I don't know when I'm going to cast this on. Hopefully pretty soon. I also have plans for another shawl by Jonathan Tollo. He's called Made by Tollo on Instagram. It's the brioche, Fields of Brioche shawl, and it's knitted in fingering weight sock yarn. And I had a lot of that in my stash, so I picked out 3 skeins that I think might be a good combo for this. A as you can see, it's pretty much the same color combo as for the other scarf, but I think the other shawl, but I think the result will be totally different, because one is with slipped stitches and brioche and the other one is just plain stockinette stitch, so I think they will look totally different. I also have some small tiny projects that I will start, or that I have plans for. First of all, I need to show you this incredibly project bag that a friend of mine called Jael and the Bags create. She uses linen fabric to create these bags, and I absolutely adore them. I really think it's something you should look into. I think she can send abroad if you contact her directly. You can find her on Instagram. But my son, who is 18 years old, is not that knit worthy, but he has cold feet, and something that I can make for him that he requests is socks. And now he wanted me to knit a pair of slippers designed by Kajsa Vorela, or Tornedalsfrun. It's a 2 colors or 3 colored slipper with a lovely pattern, and he picked these 2 colors also from a Swedish yarn maker or a dyer, and she also spins the yarn and breeds the sheep, I think, or something like that. Anyway, she collects the wool and the spin it, and well, she has control over all the way the yarn comes from the sheep to becoming yarn. It's called Libsticka finsk lantras. If you should say it in English, it would be Finnish forest breed, maybe? No, not forest breed. Country breed, maybe? Countryside breed. Well, he picked out this 2 colored, no, gray color. This is a non-dyed gray base, and then he wanted this dark blue. It looks black, but it's really dark blue color as the contrast color. It's 100% wool yarn, 2 ply, 270 meters in 100 grams. I also think you can find a way of getting this to another country than Sweden. I think Hanna, who has the brand, is easy to work with, so it's probably easy to less solvable. Can you say that? You can solve the shipping and paying if needed. So, and then I have another hat that I plan to knit in a yarn from Järbo. It's also a really soft yarn. I don't know. Normally I knit in more rustic yarns, but this year or this fall, everything I choose to knit is in super soft yarns. I don't know what's happened to me, but I picked these 3 alpaca yarns for a hat, a semi, or what do you say? It's multicolored with some sort of, I don't know how to say it. Well, the pattern, I think the hat will be in this base color and the pattern will be in these two colors, if I remember it right. Hopefully I can insert some pictures of these planned projects so you get a better view of or idea of what I'm knitting. Well, that was everything I had to share with you today. I hope you enjoyed this little short version of my English speaking podcast. If you look to my playlist, you might find or realize that I have another side of the podcast where I interview knitters and yarn people, and that's in Swedish, so you probably won't have that much fun watching it if you're not Swedish speaking, but maybe I find someone English speaking that love the yarn and knitting that I can interview also. Or I mean, the people is there, but you know, I need to find time and contact, and then my Swedish viewer might not think it's that fun if I start interviewing in English all the time, because even though most people in Sweden speak and understand Swedish really well, they might appreciate more that the podcast still is in Swedish when I do the interviews. Well, we'll see how things proceed. It was fun to talk to you today. I will be back in some time when I find the time and have something to share with you. Until then, remember to subscribe, comment, like, and follow me on Instagram. My Instagram name for the podcast is the Inquisitive Knitting Podcast, and for my more personal account it is Mison Marie, and you can find me on Ravelry as Mison Marie. Thank you for today.